hanging upside down in unbelievable close calls, daring rescues during terrifying ride malfunctions, or hilarious moments of utter disappointment. Spending your day at the theme park might sound like a good idea until any of this happens to you. Get ready to witness some thrilling theme park incidents that no one was supposed to see, but did. This ride, named Fireball, goes up and down in circles, but this day, it didn't work as planned. The ride stopped when it was upside down due to a mechanical fault, and people were stuck vertically for 4 hours.
The old guy in the first one, hopefully he's doing okay.
Just look at the girl's hair hanging down. I would have passed out in such a situation. Now you might be thinking, why did the evacuation take so long? Well, it's because the workers had to wait for the fire truck that could reach up to 100 feet high to get the people out. Thankfully, no one was hurt during this. This happened in Qinhuangdao City, China, when a roller coaster car went up to its highest point and then froze. Initially, passengers aboard thought it was just part of the ride, but when 10 minutes passed, they realized the ride had stuck mid-air. Luckily, this was no 4-hour wait, and the ride continued after 20 minutes. Park authorities later explained this happened because of a power outage. The 20-minute wait happened because they had no backup generators and had to wait for the power to turn back on. Not to worry though, the park has since arranged backup generators, so all is well. If you're going to an amusement park, this is something you would never want to see. A man spotted a huge crack on one of the world's fastest and biggest roller coasters. Did you see how it moved when the ride passed? I'm shocked no one noticed it before. Luckily, the ride was shut down for maintenance before any big disaster, and no one was hurt. The man who shot the video certainly saved many from a huge disaster, and is being hailed as a hero. We all trust seatbelts with our lives, but there are chances that even these can malfunction. On the off chance this happens to you, you better hope you have this woman's luck. This woman was left hanging upside down on a ride, where her seatbelt opened mid-ride. Luckily, the people sitting beside her were kind enough to grab her, and she held on for her life. The ride was stopped, and she survived. Well, I'll have trust issues with seatbelt after watching this one. This horrible accident took place in Orenburg, Russia, where a swing ride suddenly collapsed while it was well on its way. Riders sitting on the swing chairs were hoping to have a little fun, but they didn't expect the structure would collapse and hit the ground. While park management claimed it wasn't sure what happened, investigations revealed the ride was 17 years old, so it was bound to be a little rusty. Worry not, the riders were out of danger. Let's hope the park quickly took action and checked all its rides before letting anyone else ride again. Something fell off, a mother states while recording her kids riding the zipper at an amusement park.
And something fell off the ride while they were on there.
Luckily, the park management saw something hurl out of the ride and immediately stopped it. Thankfully, no one was hurt, and the workers managed to get every rider off without a scratch. But park management decided to investigate and realized the wheel of one of the ride's carriages had flown off, and it was later welded back on. Luckily, nothing bad had happened, and hats off to the park management, because it took action the second it realized something was wrong. The Sandblaster. On June 14, 2018, a major disaster occurred at the Daytona Beach Boardwalk amusement park during a Sandblaster ride. Around 8 p.m., the front cars of the ride derailed, causing 2 riders to fall 34 feet to the ground. Fortunately, no serious harm was done, and survivors just sustained minor injuries. As a result, the ride was closed for investigation. The inspector determined that damaged seats, excessive corrosion, and a crack in the track were the causes of the accident. After maintenance was performed, the ride reopened, but tragically, a few hours later, the same incident occurred. The Vortex. A terrifying incident took place at Thorpe Park involving one of the rides called the Vortex in 2018. The ride is known for spinning riders around on a large mechanical arm. During the ride, a video captured a large object being torn off the ride, narrowly missing the riders below. Consequently, the ride was promptly closed for investigation. Upon closer inspection, it was determined that the object was simply a piece of foam from a seat. After a 15-minute inspection, the Vortex ride reopened. It was a close call, but fortunately, no one was harmed. New Texas Giant. The New Texas Giant debuted in 1990 as the tallest wooden roller coaster in the world. Constructed with over 900,000 board feet of wood, this colossal structure features heart-racing vertical turns and stands at a height exceeding 140 feet. But in 2009, it underwent renovation and reopened in 2011 as the New Texas Giant. The ride was operating smoothly until July 2013, when a tragic incident occurred. During the first steep descent, a larger woman fell out of her train carriage and plummeted 75 feet. As a result, the ride was closed for investigation. The Tsunami. In 2016, an incident happened at M&D's Park in Scotland involving the ride called Tsunami. That afternoon, a tsunami derailed and collided with a support beam at a speed of 40 miles per hour. The ride plummeted 30 feet, resulting in a pile of wreckage. 2 adults and 8 children were injured, but thankfully no lives were lost. An investigation revealed that incompatible welding had been performed on car axles a few days prior. This led to the axles failing during a critical turn, causing the entire ride to derail. Consequently, Tsunami was removed and M&Ds fined for health and safety violations. This man looks perfectly normal, but wait till the ride begins. The ride was so jerky that his fake teeth fell out. He keeps looking for it, but it's too late. He better go to the dentist and get a new one that can endure slingshots. This ride turned out to be more adventurous than she thought. It happened at the Foire du Trône, France, when 2 girls went on the ride, but one of them detached and kept hanging. A big thanks to the big boots she was wearing. Due to them, she didn't fall down, but still, watching the world upside down doesn't seem like a nice experience. I'm curious what happened after they got her off the ride. Did they say, okay, who's next? Or did they just close the ride for the day? The Magic Carpet Carnival was about to show its magic, but began falling down. Luckily, a passerby noticed it and risked his own life to save the riders. He definitely could not stop that fall all on his own, so many other people also stepped up to save the day. All of these people are absolute gems, because it was obvious that they also could have been severely injured if the ride fell down. Yet, these brave people still managed to hang on to it. That's absolutely heart-melting. A person on this ride lost his phone when it fell from his pocket.
No, God, please.
And this is why, folks, next time you go for a ride, you leave your phone with anyone but you. Hypersonic XLC. The Hypersonic XLC roller coaster at King's Dominion in Doswell opened in 2001 and became very popular. There were rumors that passengers who raised their hands at the start would often dislocate their shoulders due to the force of the launch. These rumors supposedly led to lawsuits against King's Dominion, resulting in the ride being permanently closed in 2007, just 6 years after it opened. How ridiculous! However, I couldn't find any evidence of these lawsuits or cases of dislocated shoulders. Was this the real reason for the ride's closure, or just a trick? What do you think? Superman, Tower of Power. In 2017, a 13-year-old girl named Caitlin experienced a tragic incident at Six Flags Kentucky Kingdom. While preparing to ride a drop tower that lifts riders 80 feet in the air and drops them at a speed of 54 miles per hour, a cable malfunctioned. The cable fell on top of Caitlin, causing severe damage to her legs. Despite nearby screams, the ride could not be stopped in time, resulting in Caitlin losing both of her legs. She underwent surgery, but unfortunately, her right foot could not be reattached. The subsequent investigation led to the permanent closure of the ride. Russian rocket. This massive ride can hold 10 people in a gondola on the ground level, which is connected to a large arm. Gradually, the arm lifts the gondola, causing it to spin 200 feet in the air. While in motion, the gondola also rotates on its own axis. However, in 2010, a worrisome moment occurred when a cable on the rocket ride snapped. This left 20 people hanging precariously, but after over an hour, rescuers successfully saved them all. Subsequently, the ride was temporarily closed for repairs before reopening later that year. Ride of Steel. In 1999, the Steel Ride was built at Darien Lake Theme Park in New York, but in 2011, an unfortunate incident occurred. Sergeant James Hackemer, a brave war veteran who lost both legs while serving his country, was seated at the front of the ride when he was ejected from his seat as the train approached a smaller hill. Sadly, the boy did not survive. The ride was closed indefinitely. An investigation revealed that all riders must have 2 functioning legs because the restraints are designed to secure them. Although the operators were aware of his disability, they failed to stop him from boarding. Eventually, the ride was allowed to reopen. The Emerald Plunge. On the opening day of the Wave Water Park in Dublin, California, a rider experienced a painful incident. In 2017, a 10-year-old boy made the decision to take a ride on a large water slide. This particular slide had a vertical drop of approximately 48 feet, leading to a shallow pool below. As the boy reached the bottom of the slide, he unexpectedly skidded over the water and was propelled over the slide, landing on the hard cement surface. Fortunately, his injuries were not severe. After that, the ride was closed just 90 minutes after it had initially opened. Flight Commander. Kings Island, Ohio has a poor safety record. Since 1976, 7 people have died at the park due to various incidents. One incident that stands out is related to a ride called the Flight Commander. This ride consisted of pods that took riders up to a height of 60 feet. Each pod was connected to a rotating section, allowing riders to spin their pods using a joystick. Tragically, in 1991, just a year after its opening, a woman riding alone slipped out of her pod and fell over 60 feet to the ground, resulting in her untimely demise. This incident led to its closure for 3 days. This couple had a surprise member on their ride. Just as the dog was about to cross, it got hit and joined the people in the water. What an unfortunate day for the dog. This might just be the smartest thing a theme park has done. Not wanting to implicate the lives of its future riders, one theme park decided to test out its new ride with dummies. The ride was supposed to lightly touch the water and then swing into the air. But when it came to the most awaited turn, not only did the dummy detach from its seat, falling into the water, but the other dummies hit the metal railing on their way out. Luckily, this was just a test ride, and the park management learned their lesson, closing the ride before it had even opened up to the public. Now that's exactly how it should be done. That pirate boat ride seems overloaded. That's why it crashed down. Did you notice the guy in the white shirt on the top? I'm sure he would have learned his lesson that day when his heart slipped a second's beat. This woman didn't realize that her second safety belt had come off. Luckily, it was just for extra precaution, and the main belt was intact. But realizing such a thing after a ride, that can be pretty shocking. The Cyclone. Coney Island's Luna Park is a well-known amusement park featuring the famous Cyclone roller coaster. This wooden coaster was built in 1926, and it takes riders on a thrilling journey through twists and turns at a speed of 60 miles per hour. Despite its imperfect safety record, the Cyclone has remained a beloved local attraction for nearly a century. Riders are secured by a single lap bar, which can be overpowered by certain individuals. In 1985, a man stood up on the ride for an extra thrill, but accidentally struck a crossbeam, resulting in a fatal fall. However, since this accident was caused by the rider himself, the Cyclone continues to operate to this day. Thunder River Rapids. In Australia, even the wildlife at amusement park rides can be dangerous. In 2016, Thunder River Rapid ride at Dreamworld Amusement Park turned into a tragic accident. This ride operated like a typical river rapid ride, with circular rafts floating through a choppy water channel, lifted by a conveyor belt system. On that day, a water pump on the ride malfunctioned, preventing the rafts from reaching the unloading area. Within a minute, another raft approached from behind at high speed, colliding with the stranded raft and causing it to tip over. Unfortunately, 4 riders lost their lives, and consequently, the ride was demolished in 2018. The Human Trebuchet. In 1990, one woman named Stella Young tested the dangerous trebuchet, but unfortunately, she hit the net and then bounced out, resulting in a broken neck and pelvis. Instead of closing this scary ride, they decided to make the net bigger and put people in a ball, so they wouldn't flail and bounce out upon landing. Trebuchets are not precise machines, and this fact became evident in 2002. Konstantin Yankov, a student, tried out this trebuchet and was thrown off target so severely that he completely missed the net and didn't survive. This foolish ride ultimately led to the permanent closure. Fatal Fujin Raijin 2. Fujin Raijin 2 is the famous roller coaster in Expoland built in 1992. However, in 2007, a tragic incident occurred when one of the wheel axles on the coaster car suddenly broke as it was about to cross a round track. This caused the car to tip sideways and collide with the guardrail. Unfortunately, a young woman lost her life and 19 others were injured. The subsequent investigation revealed that the car axles had not been replaced for over 15 years. As a result, the entire park was closed and the ride was demolished. The Perilous Plunge. This ride featured a thrilling 115-foot steep plunge, but riders were secured only by a lap bar and seatbelt. Unfortunately, in 2001, a 300-pound rider slipped out of these restraints and fell over 100 feet into the shallow pool below, resulting in her demise. Surprisingly, the lap bar and seatbelt remained locked when the boat returned to the station. Eventually, it was discovered that the 50-inch seatbelt was 8 inches shorter than her abdomen. She had placed it over her legs, causing her to slip out of the boat as it plunged. After the brief closure, the ride reopened with new 4-point restraints. Now this is what you call a close call. Luckily, this all happened before they'd taken off. Only a few seconds more, and those women would have been toast. The Vertical Accelerator. In 2019, 2 brave individuals sat in the vertical accelerator at Florida's Cobra Adventure Park. Their friends captured the video while playfully poking them about the upcoming 160-foot ascent into the sky. But wait, can you observe the stretched cables on the left side compared to the right? Hold on to watch what comes next. Just as the operator was about to release the lever, something shocking occurred. If the ride operator had noticed the frayed cable even a second later, the riders could have been flung to their ends. Fortunately, no one was harmed, and the ride was promptly closed. This girl was ready for the launch, but not for the Seagull. Just as the ride started, a seagull flew into her face, and she immediately took it off and continued to enjoy the ride. Only Serbians can be daring enough to make a swing ride that's just a speedy car away from an accident. Seriously though, imagine the pain of swerving down that lane. This man's attempt to rope climb quickly took a tumble, quite literally. Let's just be thankful he had ground to fall back on, although I'm sure his hands are smoking. What's wrong with birds? This guy was also hit by one during his roller coaster ride. Maybe they're protesting because we blocked their way with our rides. This is one lucky man. You'll shortly know why. Just like any other person, He was enjoying his ride and filming it, but dropped his phone. Not so lucky, I know, but when he came out, he found it right next to the ride.
Whoa, really?
Slingshot rides aren't very wig-friendly. This woman first passed out on the ride and then lost her wig. But she was so scared that it was her last concern. I feel sorry for her. This is blissful ignorance. Good thing he didn't know about the cord. Because otherwise, he probably would have slipped in fear. Still, the guy's incredibly lucky he'd already reached the other side. And here's where we learn why that extension cord is important. Can you imagine if the two guys were switched? This mad lad managed to grab a phone mid-air in a thrilling ride like it was nothing. I don't know who's hiring, but he needs to be on a baseball team. You're always pushing me to do things, said a terrified man seconds before he broke up with his girlfriend.
I want to break up.
Now that's what I call an emotional roller coaster. And this roller coaster had been stuck at a really critical point. Imagine being that guy on board who came to cure his height phobia. It's crazy that the lady is thanking them for being patient, as if they had any other option. These men decided to test the limits of this semi-mechanical ride and quickly learned their lesson when their section spun out of control. Forget Duck Duck Goose. This is Duck Duck God. I wouldn't trust glass slides at all. This one was broken when a rock fell from the mountain. Due to this, the inflatable boats just kept colliding, and the tourists had to help themselves before the rescue came. No one was hurt during this incident. This ride is about to become the worst nightmare for these two. Just as it was released, the wire breaks up, leaving them hanging in midair. Despite the collision with the pillar, both the ladies were safe. This roller coaster snapped in half when its brake system malfunctioned and activated the emergency brakes.
Oh no, okay, that's not.
Later, it was revealed that the ride didn't have maintenance for a very long time. Yikes! Everything was going right when suddenly something came loose and banged up against the ride.
What was that?
Seconds later, the chain broke and the entire right side wobbled. Thankfully, it didn't end worse, and the operator controlled the situation. Such circumstances provide a base for the phobias. The kid was clearly too small to have that ride, so he shouldn't have been there. Glad they saved him from falling at the very least. After seeing this, you'll never visit a theme park in dangerous weather again. Luckily, no one was on the ride, but this storm taught us why theme parks shut down in rainy weather. Imagine paying hundreds of dollars to get your teeth aligned and losing them on a zip line. After seeing his reaction, it's obvious he doesn't need the retainer for that $1 million smile. Hanging approximately 25 feet above the ground, her life must be flashing before her eyes. But don't worry, her dad was there to save her. What an incredible catch that was! People saw this incredible dad's unmatched love for his daughter in an amusement park in New York, where she somehow slipped under the safety grille of the Six Flags ride and got tangled on it. Fortunately, her father timely caught her and saved her from a painful visit to the hospital. A tourist faced a heart-stopping situation when he went hang gliding in 2018. Just after taking off from a 4,000-foot mountain, he realized he was not attached to the harness.
2, 1, go. Run, 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 run for the guy.
The pilot had forgotten to hook him up and grabbed him with one hand and steered with the other. These 2 minutes must have felt like an eternity to him. Luckily, they made an emergency landing. Next time, if you decide to go for hang gliding, make sure you hang on with a harness and not a rod. What could go wrong parking a truck so close to a swing with a high range? A swing ride in China turned into a nightmare for the riders when they became too close to a parked truck. Unfortunately, the ride didn't immediately stop after one person hit the truck, causing others to slam into it too. But thankfully, they all recovered. But I certainly hope they sued the park for its negligence, because who lets a big vehicle park within reach? Children riding a carousel in Ramallah, Palestine, experienced the shock of their lives when the carousel fell down. The carousel was supposed to go up in the air and swing like a merry-go-round, but after moments of going up, it suddenly came crashing down. The children were too stunned to move, while parents were frantically rushing to aid. But don't worry, the story isn't as bad as it seems. They're completely fine now. I hope the park seriously reviewed its rides before opening up again. Modern technology has indeed brought a revolution in our lives, but there's one bad thing about machines and gadgets. No one can predict when or where they're going to malfunction. For instance, this carnival ride doesn't look too old, but who knows what's going to happen next. And here we go. Ride was not too old. Its manufacturers were credible, and it was being properly maintained. And yet, these girls still fell off. I wonder why everyone ran past the girl who actually fell completely outside of the ride. I understand getting the other girl off the ride too, but she's literally on the ground. People love to watch the Acrobat family Nerveless Knox perform. So when 23-year-old acrobat Cyrus Knox propped up to perform a stunt on the Wheel of Fortune, people at the Barnstable County Fair were expecting anything but this. Onlookers were horrified and quickly rushed to Cyrus's aid after he fell from the main wheel and landed on top of the metal frame. Although it was a horrible accident, Cyrus is safe. You'd think the young man would blame the contraption, but Cyrus actually says it happened because he misplaced his left foot.
I misplaced my left foot and I fell.
To top it off, Cyrus plans on coming back once he heals. Now that's a show must go on if I've ever seen one. Imagine getting helplessly stuck on a ride 300 feet above the ground. And to add salt to the wound, all this happens to you on a Sunday. These guys had to face a similar situation in Canada's Wonderland when this roller coaster got stuck at the highest point of the track. The rescue operation took more than 3 hours, so they had to sit there all that time. Canada's Wonderland has an amazing safety record, but it was surely an unlucky day for those people. I'm sure after this, they canceled all the remaining plans for the day. A Pirates of the Caribbean ride in Lopburi, Thailand suddenly ejected passengers at its strongest rotation. Horrified parents and friends rushed to the scene to help the injured, who were too shocked to do anything. This happened because the metal bar protecting them suddenly came loose and unfastened the riders. Thankfully, no one was seriously hurt, although parents didn't let it go and sued the park for negligence, with some even demanding the park close until it fixed all of its rides. Let's hope the park seriously listened. This is Cyclone, a popular ride at Canada's Wonderland, and while it didn't have any accidents, I did find something similar. A single swing, and here she's gone! That terrifying incident happened in 2019 at Hannibal Park of Port El Kentawi, Tunisia. The 19-year-old girl just wanted to enjoy her favorite ride in a unique way, so she poked her head out of the cabin, which turned horribly wrong, as unbeknownst to her, her belt had broken, and she was flung into the air. Still, she was lucky enough to land just a few short meters above the ground, although I hope she won't ignore safety instructions anymore. Have you ever thought during a ride about what would happen if it got stuck? Well, that is exactly what happened to these people. They were enjoying California Screamin', and scream they did, because the ride did not end as expected. Just as it got to the climax, it just stopped there out of nowhere. The crew tried to revive it, but they could not complete their ride. The workers at the park came up to them and had to evacuate everyone to take them to safety. When you go bungee jumping, this is the last thing you want. This tourist was excitedly swinging in the air, but seconds later, his bungee cord snapped. But this man was quite lucky. For one, his destination was the water and not the ground. Secondly, although he did hit the water, the cord snapped just a few inches above. The dad had been filming the ride to show his son's hilarious reactions to his wife, but it didn't record what he was expecting. Things took a turn for the worse when the 6-year-old kid's seatbelt broke and unfastened, and he disappeared from the camera frame for a moment. Turns out he was sliding off his seat. But then the father grabbed and kept holding onto him for the rest of the ride. After finishing the ride, when he told a worker of that Texan amusement park, he replied, "Oh, yeah, sorry, that's been happening for some time." Unbelievable, isn't it? This kiddie train was running smooth, and out of nowhere, it hit the brakes. I guess the driver needed a bit more training. Luckily, everyone was safe after it. If your height is taller than the requirement for a ride, don't sit there. You could be risking your life. This guy also thought some inches wouldn't hurt, but almost got hit by the structure. What a close call. A nightmare came true, tightening the screw of the carnival ride with his hand.
Let me just tighten that up there. All right.
Imagine being that person on this ride. Yeah, truly freaky. I guess most of us are not going to the carnival rides anytime soon after watching this one. Movie stars also face similar problems to us. Just as Jimmy Kimmel was enjoying his ride, it was sabotaged by a bug. Maybe it was his fan and just wanted an autograph. Rides are fun. Well, until some kid decides to bump their cart into yours. This kid was hit in the back by someone and had a painful jerk. But I don't feel bad for him. He did the same to this couple earlier. These kids lived every person's worst nightmare. Just as the ride reached its peak, the launch cable snapped, but no major casualty took place. And what about this one? The engineer who designed that cruise water slide needs some more training, as this was not the first incident. But don't worry about her evacuation, guys. These slides have a closed hole at their lowest points, exactly for this purpose. When it's your unlucky day, even straight things like Trebuchet splash go wrong. Thankfully, no one got injured in the incident, and all the riders were safely rescued by the authorities. Look at the exact moment he started to panic and was confused as to which way he was supposed to go, and instantly relieved once the guy opened the hatch. It's incredible how quick rescuers they are. That was much quicker than he expected, so he was forced to enjoy an unexpected swim. I'm not quite sure whether it malfunctioned or that's just another technique of throwing people into the swimming pool. That ride seems really thrilling. The kids are really enjoying it. But wait a minute, look at that little kid. He's literally passing out. I guess he's not enjoying the ride like everyone else. These kids seem to be enjoying their time, but something totally bizarre is about to happen. The boy's shoes come off during the ride. Just look at his surprised face. He better get a shoe that fits him right next time. A good night's sleep isn't the only thing they'll lose after this ride. They'll lose their phone too. Just look how easily it slid out of his pocket. There's no way he would have found it in one piece. This kid had prepared himself for the ride, but it just didn't work. Due to a technical fault, the slide didn't work. And the door was locked for safety purposes. The kid couldn't get his ride or freedom, but after some time, he did get to come out. This dragon boat ride had stood straight in the air despite stopping on its normal position. An epic end of a really entertaining ride indeed. Imagine the feelings of the ladies at the top. That doesn't seem enjoyable at all. Water slides are fun because, well, you slide. But this girl got stuck when the best part came.
Wow. Are you guys enjoying the competition so far?
She just wiggled her way to the top to get out of the situation. This ride just decided not to move further and hit hard brakes. The girl just flew out in the water, while the other one tried her best not to get soaked in water and humiliation. 20 workers at an amusement park in India decided to spend their break on this ride named Disco Dance. But that all didn't go as planned. All that fun ended horribly when the ride fell down. Thankfully, no one was seriously injured in the incident. This guy was enjoying his sausage roll, not knowing that a seagull had its eyes on his food. It's ready to strike at the right moment, and then it goes for it.
Pounce, pounce, pounce. Yes, boom, fat him, fucking jackpot.
Just look at its happy walk. The man comes for revenge, but the seagull is just too fast. This observant guy noticed something that shouldn't be happening, especially with people riding the roller coaster. I sincerely hope the theme park management saw this, or else they're paying for a lawsuit. In another hilarious wig moment, a woman riding the roller coaster ends up losing her wig midway. But she didn't even have the time to think about her loss. What do you get when you mix fear of losing your life and a rush of adrenaline? A fainting man! Well, at least his friend had a good laugh. Thank you very much for watching the video. Do like and share it with your friends. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to not miss any of the upcoming amazing videos. Thank you once again.